right, it looks like we're live. Welcome to the InnerStrength Empowerment Hour. I am Laura DePedro-Cian, and this is episode 33. And I am excited to be here with my success coaches, Joanne and LT, as usual, and with our special guest, Molly. Molly has been a client of mine for a long time, and I'm excited to talk to her today because we are wrapping up our series on the 4 agreements. And the 4th agreement is always do your best. So we had be impeccable with your word. Don't take things personally. Don't make assumptions. And now that all kind of leads into always do your best. So Molly has had quite a journey this past year, as we all have with COVID, but as a teacher and a mom, it was sort of the double whammy for her. So this will be a really interesting conversation today. So thank you, ladies. And thank you to everyone who's joining us on Facebook. Hi, Lupita, Ruiz, Christy, Anna, thank you for joining us. Feel free to make comments or ask questions in Facebook as well. So Molly, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and initially when, before you actually started working with me, what your struggles were?
So I am a teacher, as Lori mentioned, and I live in Ohio, not too far away from Lori. I have 2 kids right now. Oh my gosh, my daughter's almost a teenager. So I'm a parent of 2 almost teenagers. I have a 15-year-old and she's going to be 13 in August. And so like in my past, I was an athlete. I had super metabolism. I could eat whatever I wanted. I didn't need to work out. And then these 2 kids came along. And my late 30s came along and my super metabolism stopped, like it slowed down. And I never really knew how to eat properly for my body or take, I didn't have to. I never really felt the need to. I was skinny. I thought I was healthy.
And also, I'm assuming you weren't still working out like crazy all the time. Like you weren't still.
No, after high school, I did a little bit of college intramural sports, but after that, and, I did some like co-ed, like softball teams with, some friends and stuff, but not nearly as active as I was in my earlier years. So that activity slowed down too, for sure. And, the weight just kept coming on. And I felt like I was eating healthy and doing everything. And I just didn't know what, but still was still pretty comfortable. And then late 30s came and here comes even more. But what really opened my eyes to try to do something more was watching what has happened systematically in my family. Everybody, not everybody, but many people have hypothyroidism. There's a lot of heart disease, a lot of type 2 diabetes. And as I was getting older, so were my grandparents. And I watched what those unhealthy choices and that unhealthy lifestyle was doing to them and living through that. And that made me realize, I'm like, I don't want to do this to my children and my grandchildren. I don't want them to have to deal with all of the emotional stuff and the decision making and everything that goes along with it. And I see the same thing, happening with my parents and my aunts and uncles now as they're in their early 60s. Yeah. So a friend of mine at work had actually been a client of Lori's. And I had talked to her about finally one day I'm just like, okay, tell me, Heather, how did you do this?
Yeah.
And because she had always, she didn't push anything. She just was like, oh, I'm gonna do this plant-based thing. And I do it because it's for health, health reasons. And she showed me her before and afters. And after a couple months, I'm finally okay, tell me more about this. It's time for me to make a change. And that was about 3 years ago. And I don't know. And then from there, it just been that. I don't know. Do I need to keep going on more with that? I don't know where I'm going.
Well, so for people who, I've been running my program exclusively online for a little over 2 years now. But before that, I was running it just in 8-week increments instead of a lifetime program. And so that's how Molly and I originally got in touch, but now she's part of my lifetime program. And she also is the person who makes our InnerStrength bracelets, which everyone absolutely loves. About once a month, somebody messages me in a panic and says, I lost my bracelet. What do I do? So I can send him a new one. And so everyone who joins our program gets that. But yeah, so Heather was someone that I had worked with one-on-one, and she had lost about 40 pounds. And so I remember that you and I got connected because of her. So how much initially before COVID hit, you had lost about how much weight on my program?
Almost 30 pounds. Okay. And that was starting in December to March. So in about 4 months, I lost 30 pounds.
It's amazing. Yeah. And then of course, all of our lives were turned upside down with COVID. So as a mom and as a teacher, I mean, a lot of us can relate to most of this because we've all been through it, especially if you were a parent going through this, or if your work was affected. But your work was affected, you were a parent and you were a teacher. So tell us what that was like for you.
It was really tough because there was so much not in control, and not in my control. Like there were so many decisions being made about my career, about my, what's going on with my children's education, what's going on with work. And so many decisions being made that I had no input on. And normally in the past, that would have just sent me into a downward spiral of eating, not leaving my couch, just going into shutdown mode because, okay, well, I can control what I eat, but dealing with that and eating emotionally rather than smart. But because of all of the tools and all the mindset work through the coaching calls and everything, that didn't happen. I didn't continue down the weight loss path that I was on, but I maintained my weight.
Yeah. Which is amazing because I've heard, so a lot of people who come to me are like, I've gained anywhere from the COVID 15 to the COVID 50. And it's, it's a lot of stress because I know I don't know what it was like with your school district, but with ours, they couldn't decide whether it was a hybrid at home or at school. And so they changed it several times throughout the year. So it's like, do your kids go to your same school district that you work in?
Yeah, they actually go to the same school I teach at.
Okay. So
it wasn't like two different sets of decisions being made and dealing with their schedule versus my schedule. At least, there was consistency with it. We were on the same schedule.
Right.
That saved that headache.
Yeah. And it is scary because then you're also afraid. There's so many different things that we could probably do and should do a whole session just on COVID because of the fear people had from either of getting it, of a loved one getting it, of their kids getting it. Mm-hmm. I did a lot of live streams on that in the very beginning because there's just so many different emotions that go into that because like you said, your work situation is being thrown up in the air. You have things being thrown at you that, you're way out of your comfort zone there. Plus you have to manage what's happening with your kids. And in a very politically charged environment as well, with a lot of different opinions about what was going on with COVID. So it's just so much pressure. So like you said, so in the past, that's something that would have just derailed you.
Completely. I would have been in total shutdown mode.
So how do you relate this to the fourth agreement, which is always doing your best? How does that resonate when you think about how you've handled your challenges this past year?
I've definitely been doing, I guess my best compared to what I would have done in the past. Nobody's ever perfect. But like when I did feel my struggles coming on, Joanne was my original coach when I joined the Army. I reached out to her because one of my coping mechanisms is to shut out everything that's not necessary. And at one point in there, things became so overwhelming. I had been exposed to COVID at work. I had to go into work 2 days a week, but we chose to have our children online because of health issues. And so I had that stress of bringing home COVID and getting my kids sick and just so much stress and anxiety. I did get to the point where I did get to a shutdown mode and I started eating a little bit more, but having the coaches in place, like saved me. I reached out to Joanne. I said, hey, I need you to help me get back on track. She's like, okay, let's talk. We sat, she did her normal drive to the Target parking lot. And,
Yep.
you know, we talked on the phone for 2 hours about what was going on in life. And, you know, she helped me, okay, let's make a plan. Here's what you need to do. You need to get into a routine. And that really helped save me at that part, like that midpoint through the COVID stuff. It's really just like to do your best isn't doing it on your own. It's knowing that
Right.
there's other people out there to help you through it. Because if I tried to do it all on my own, I wouldn't have been able to be as successful with keeping everything in track and being true to myself with all that.
So there's a couple points in there, which is that first, you know, your best isn't the same at all points of your life. Circumstances, and he even talks about this in the book, in the Fourth Agreement, that your best is a day-to-day thing. And I think that's something that we put so much pressure on ourselves, like my best needs to be completely consistent all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to perform at the same level every single day. And it doesn't give us time to really be real and present in the moment, because not every day is going to be a day that lends you to be doing it something at that level. But I think that the main thing is you had, you know, someone that's the gift of a lifetime membership program, is that you had someone that you had already formed a relationship with that you can, you know, talk to, that's going to help you through it. So how do you think, so as you know, wrapped up the year, how do you think the way that you handled this situation with COVID and have handled your journey in losing weight, how has that resonated with your kids and your family and people around you?
They've seen, you know, like I've tried to stay consistent with making healthy meals. I've tried, you know, trying to make sure they're active, especially with my kids not going to school. And we didn't have them participate in our, you know, extracurriculars either because of our health concerns. So they've gotten into the point where they know they have to be active. They know they need to do something. So even like right now, like today, it's summer, things have loosened up. My son wakes up every day. I want to say every morning because, you know, he's 15 and mornings are non-existent.
Oh, yeah.
But he wakes up, he eats his breakfast/lunch. He goes outside into our driveway and shoots hoops for like a half hour or so, like gets out there.
Yeah.
My daughter dances and she's, you know, getting back into those types of things. So they've seen me try to stay active, like whether I'm going down in the basement into our exercise equipment or going out for a walk. Yeah. Like they see that. And, you know, as a 15-year-old making that decision to not go onto his Xbox as soon as he's done with his breakfast, he's going outside and getting some activity. And so, I mean, the kids are watching.
Yeah.
And, you know, if they see me just constantly going for the junk, they're going to go for the junk. If they see me constantly sitting on the couch playing on my phone, they're going to do that. So it's really important to me that not only make these changes for myself so that I'm breaking that cycle with my family, but also to be that role model for my kids so that, you know, I am totally breaking that cycle. It's not just me, it's future generations of our family.
Absolutely. And they're watching like every move we make, whether we realize it or not. So I know that, you know, you made a comment to me once that my husband finally realizes that I like eating this way.
Yes.
So can you tell us more about what that journey has been like?
You know, we're your typical meat and potatoes family before then, you know, a standard American diet, hitting McDonald's on bad night, you know, busy nights, you know, 2 active kids who are active in sports prior to COVID and different things. And my husband was one who wouldn't eat a salad. Like he wouldn't let any green leaf touch his lips. And through all this, like he'll sit and actually choose and order a salad at a restaurant now, which is like blows my mind. But then like one day, like I did the reboot and I was really getting more consistent with cooking because one of the things with why my weight loss stopped during COVID, but I didn't gain weight, was I was still eating plant-based, but not on plan. I wasn't measuring. I was just, you know, I was eating vegan, sometimes some vegan junk food.
So it's probably too much plant-based junk food.
Yeah, too much processed stuff. But, you know, at that point, that was my best.
Yeah.
And once the school year started wrapping up, Lori introduced her reboot for members who have been in more than 6 months. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is perfect timing because I've been at the same weight now for over a year, which isn't bad. Like I was very proud of myself for maintaining because many people did have that COVID gain. But I'm like, I'm still not where I want to be.
Right.
So then I really got back into the cooking and everything through the reboot and the coaching with all of that. And the one day my husband's like, I really think you enjoy this food. Eating this way. I'm like, yeah, I do. I don't feel gross after I eat. I don't get that, that feeling that we feel is like that full feeling, but it's really we're bloated and inflamed from the food that we eat.
Yeah.
Like I feel light and airy and happy and when I'm done eating and not gross and sick. Right. And now that I've been with it, from about 3 years playing with it, I've learned how to cook vegan. So that makes it even more enjoyable because it opens up so many more possibilities. And all of the resources that are provided to us with the meal plans and
cooking tutorials and
and the batch cooking and all of that has seeing the different options of how you can put things together and learning what I like and what my family will eat has just really opened the doors for everything. And so I think he secretly likes it too, but he just doesn't want to admit it. Well, the kids are on board, but we do have almost all dairy out of the house. Like, they eat, some cheese substitutes and stuff without any noticing a difference.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a slow process with the family, which I know we talked about a lot about before, but we're getting there.
I mean, that's okay. It's really, I think a lot of women, you're a good example of somebody who's been able to do this, even though your family hasn't really necessarily been on board. And a lot of women think if my family's not on board, how am I going to make it work? Yeah. And so since March and all of this sort of began to wrap up, you've lost additional weight?
I did the reboot. I lost an additional 10 pounds.
Nice. So it's around 40 now?
Yeah, so I'm at about 40. And I'd like to go another 20 to hit my goal. So my goal is to hit that by, the end of summer.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. So what advice would you have for women? Something that I hear a lot is women feeling too overwhelmed to get out of overwhelm, especially with the last year that we've all had. People are it's all kind of snowballed. So what advice do you have for women like that who are looking down the barrel of lifestyle change and thinking, I don't know if I can really do this?
The big thing is to know you're not alone. You don't have to do it yourself. So even though, as Lori said, my family has been, it's hard to get kids to change habits, especially when they're teenagers. And then, you have that third kid that's really,
AKA your spouse, for any of you out there.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It might be the fourth or fifth or even the first if it's,
Yeah.
But it's really just reaching out to the support system. Like the support within the Plant Power Army is really what has kept me going. When I was with Lori beforehand with doing the 8 weeks, I do an 8 week here, an 8 week there, and 8 week there. And then I'm like, okay, I've got this down. I can do it on my own. And I realized I couldn't. Yeah. And that's when I joined the Plant Power Army after that started. And it's just this wonderful group of women who are there to pick you up. There's no judgment. It's just knowing, going for the support and knowing you're not alone is really there. You need to ask for the help when you need it. You need to put it out there. And that's hard in the beginning when you join, because you don't know these people. They're strangers. But going to the coaching calls, having your conversations with your coach, just being 100% open and honest is really what's going to help lead to your success.
Great. And then we have women. I mean, the women in our group refer to our group as a family.
Yes, absolutely.
They are, they say, these people are friends for life. So it's very different. Sometimes it's hard for me to try to explain what the group is like, because people are like, yeah, I have a Weight Watchers group. I have this group. I have that group. I'm like, it's not the same.
No.
Especially when you have lifetime membership, because this is, like you said, this is a long journey for some people. And you want to have people that you can go to that know what's going on with you and who care what's going on with you beyond what's the number is on the scale.
Right.
So that's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Molly, for coming on and talking to us. I think we all appreciate the teachers so much this past year, and just the amount of changes, like with my school, like it going back and forth all the time. I was like, these teachers have got to be losing their minds. And so I think we all, I speak for everyone when I just say that we appreciate all of the teachers so much. So we thank you for that. And thank you for coming on today and inspiring, hopefully, some women to get started on their journey.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for having me. And again, like I've told you before, and the coaches, like what you guys do for us is amazing. And like that lifetime support part is key, because I don't think I would have made it through the whole COVID thing and stuff without that lifeline. Like I would have just gone into my hole. So it's amazing, like what you do. I know it's very unique to anything else that's out there, and it really is. It makes a world of difference.
Well, that means a lot. I've been at this for a really long time, and I know that not only, is this my passion, but it is, the passion of all our coaches as well. Is to really see people not just succeed in the short term, but in the long term. And lifestyle change means leveling up in all kinds of areas of your life. And it means not just losing the weight and getting healthy and breaking generational patterns and all of that stuff, but also just like you said, being able to just perform in your life at a level where you have peace of mind. Because what we do is, like you said, if you would have reverted back to your old behaviors, then it's like that weighs on us and affects everything that we do in our work, in our relationships. So it's like even though we know what's going to make it worse, we can't stop ourselves from going into that hole. And so I just think it's amazing that you were able to keep your head above water and stick with us. And so we appreciate that. All right. So we'll see you in the group. Thank you, Molly.
Bye, Molly.
Thanks, Molly.
Thanks, everybody.
So for you guys, well, first of all, I will say with Joanne, is there anything that you want to say? You were, as Molly's coach, is there anything that you want to say about her journey?
I would say Molly's journey is just like everybody else's journey. And and I always feel this way. She helped me as much as I helped her, because knowing that she could come to me and that I could just hash out, that I understood the level that she was at, and we could hash it out together and say, look, this is our plan. We're both going to get through this, and we don't have to do it alone. I think that's the main thing, is like, we're not alone in this. And then it helps us coaches just as much as it helps the women in the group, because it just reinforces the fact that we need continuing support.
Yeah. I was talking to someone yesterday who said, I was doing really well for a while, and then just slowly things just kind of started going by the wayside. And before you know it, I gained all my weight back and all of these things. And this is somebody who's not in my program, but I was saying, and she was feeling so guilty about it. And I was like, we sort of are in denial about how much we need support and accountability, like how much we really need that community of people who are committed to staying healthy.
Yeah.
We sort of just think that we failed if we can't do it on our own.
Yeah.
And so that's a really good point, that, and we're not really designed, for humans. We are, pack animals. We're designed to do things in community. And so we have women who are, involved in everything. We have women who are, only involved in certain things. You show up for certain things. And so it's not something where you have to, you can pick and choose.
Right. Yeah.
Which parts of the community work for you. We have book club, we have running club, we have quarterly 5Ks, weekly workout, accountability, the weigh-ins, the NSV days. So we just have the brunch bunch, social club on the weekends. And so there's just so many things you can get involved in, and it doesn't have to be everything. You can pick and choose what works for you. So and plus you have your personal relationships with your coach and with me. So, so for you guys, I'll ask the same question about COVID. So, and I know, Lori, you actually mentioned that, like, as soon as all this stuff started to unfold with COVID, you immediately put on some weight, and you were just like, okay,
Yes.
no, I'm not going down.
I had lost 40 pounds prior to COVID through deprivation and through killing myself at a gym with a personal trainer, and had gained 20 pounds back in about 2 seconds. And I had it. I mean, done. And so that's when I found you. And so I'm going to consider that year of 2020 and COVID as a gift to me. I'm going to look at it differently than a lot of people. And I know that it means different things, and it was horrific in a lot of people. But to me, I found myself during that period, and I came into my own. So I'm always going to have a little special spot for 2020.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think it's okay to look at, I don't think we live in such an or world, and I think we can live in an and world.
Yes.
Where there are things about 2020 that were absolutely awful, but you can find
Horrific. Yes.
and you can find things in there
That's right.
are a gift and a lesson for you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm so glad that I found you early on. In the early days, it was in April that I found you. And because if I had found you a little bit later than that, then I would have done that much more damage.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I probably would have gained the entire 40 pounds back.
I want to just touch on, this isn't really on our topic today, but because you said this and so did Molly, what I see too with women who are working out like crazy to lose weight is that's not sustainable. And
No.
so what happens also for people who are doing really intensive stuff, like maybe really, really long runs, training for a marathon, or they're doing CrossFit, things where it's
Heavy weights. Right.
and you're going to increase your appetite. And so what I see is that, women will, when you stop doing this activity at the level that is not sustainable, then you start to gain the weight because your food intake hasn't changed.
Mhm.
That's exactly what happened, because the gym shut down, and everybody was on the couch watching the Tiger King on Netflix and eating a bunch of Cheetos. I mean, that's exactly what happened.
Right.
And so it just got worse and worse and worse. And, the gym was trying to do some Zoom workouts and that type thing, but it was just as easy not to do it. But I was just astounded at how quickly it came back on. It really did. I say 2 seconds, but it really did feel like it. But, I worked so hard. Gosh, I had been with them for over 1.5 years with all this blood, sweat, and tears. And it's just disheartening, and it crushes your spirit is what it does.
Right. And that's, this person that I was talking to yesterday, she was like, I just feel like such a failure.
Yeah.
And that's how a lot of women feel, whether it was because they were working out or, any number of reasons. For her, it was just life. She just wasn't around anyone who was trying to stay healthy, and it was just as easy not to do it.
That's right.
And so now she's like, I feel awful about myself, so now she's back in the hole.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And so what about you, Joanne? What do you feel with COVID? What kind of loop would that have thrown you for before? And how do you think this helped?
Well, I started I started in July of 2019, and my family actually did get COVID before it had a name, in November, right around Thanksgiving time. And as we know, it didn't come out until March of the following year, but I had already been on the program, and I had already started, I had already gotten to a place where I think I'd lost over 20 pounds at that point. And I was taking care of myself for the first time in my whole life. And me being such a germaphobe and such a the sky is falling kind of person. I really think if I wouldn't have started taking care of myself going into COVID, I would have had so much fear and been so scared that, oh my God, it's going to take me down. And I've seen that in other family members, not in my household, but extended family who don't take care of themselves. They were fearful to the extreme during COVID because, they were so scared.
Well,
And
for good reason, because they came
Right.
out with statistics saying if you are
Right.
overweight, if you have high blood pressure, all of these things, heart disease, all of our main
Right.
diseases in the United States, you are at much greater risk for not only getting it, but getting it severely. So it was scary.
It was very scary. And I was still, I still had that healthy level of fear in me to be cautious, but I didn't have it take me down. Whereas
Right.
before it would have taken me down. It would have just put me in a hole of fear, and that would have resonated to the rest of my family. So, and when you said you did a lot more live streams during COVID, and that really helped me as well, because when I would start to, all the conflicting information we were getting, and it would start to become very overwhelming, and my anxiety would pop back in. And then we would focus in on the group. You would say, control what you can control. Don't worry about the rest. And it just kept bringing me right back to center. And it really helped me keep my head in the right place to get my whole family through it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's something that we do talk about a lot in the group is focusing on what you can control.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about that, how that's even like sort of like the serenity prayer, it really is about letting go of things that you can't worry about, things that are out of your control.
Right.
And so that's been a big part of how we got through it as a group. Even when people's family members got it, there were a few people in the group who got it. So, we were fortunate.
And there were parents, my mother, and there were other people too that lived in a retirement type community that was, on lockdown. Couldn't see them, had to eat in a room by themselves. And so that was hard for a lot of us to deal with aging parents, because it was so isolating for them, and we couldn't get to them, and we couldn't, go get them, and you couldn't visit. And it was very hard on a lot of levels.
Yeah. There are, like I said, we should probably just do a whole session on it just to talk things out, because it was so, difficult for most people. And so, it is when we feel, like we said, our best isn't a static thing. And I think that's the hardest thing to remember. Is that, I think it's important what Molly was saying is that, she was consistently losing weight, and then this hit, and her best became not losing weight, but just maintaining.
Right.
Which is totally, I think that's rock star, given all the stuff that she was dealing with. And so, but I also think that if we are doing our best, so the whole point of that is so that we have peace of mind. Right. So if you are every day, if you're saying, okay, here's the best that I can do today, and not living in the future and the past, but just saying, here's what I can do today. It gives you a peace of mind about your situation. And that it does give you focus. It helps you to focus on what you can control.
Right.
But it also, I think it can help us when we're looking at other people's actions too. So that you can look at someone's actions and say, okay, well, this is the best they have to give. And you can either give grace for that and just decide, like, I get it, because I'm giving my best too. And so this is all they have. But I think also for me, it helps me it has helped me in the past to say, okay, well, if that is the best that person has, I'm going to choose not to be around that person. It is not an anger thing. It's not a like, you know,
Mhm.
like I'm going to argue with you about, are you giving your best? Because I think that's what we do in
Mhm.
relationships. Like, why aren't you trying harder? Why aren't
Mhm.
you? But you see that this person is consistently at this level. And it's like, we can't control that. That's just
Yeah.
what they have to give or
That's
what they're
right.
willing to give.
Mhm.
So for me, this
Mhm.
this agreement has to do with that as well. Does that
Mhm.
resonate with you guys?
It does.
Mhm.
And you know, it's like that saying says, when people show you who they are, believe them, especially if they are consistently showing you who they are. And sometimes it is best to walk away from that. And like you said, it does not have to be an argument or being ugly or being a big production.
No.
You can
Mhm.
just turn.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I've had to do that. And it's made a big difference for me. And the key in this is I have really come to understand. And when I say understand, I mean understand that the present is a gift and that I have today and I can control. And in the beginning, when I started this, I wasn't even controlling one day at a time. I was controlling one meal at a time. And I honestly did that. And I tell you
Mhm.
what happened is I built a life out of it because of it,
Mhm.
because those days added up. And they all were in my benefit and in my favor. And that is how I looked at it. And it truly made the difference in my journey because I had been a 30-year yo-yoer to the core. The mayor of Yo-Yoville is what I called myself. It was ridiculous. And so when I really got that concept, you know, because you can control what you're going to say and do in this moment. You really can.
Right.
Mhm.
And that
Right.
you build trust in yourself over
You do.
time.
Mhm.
And that is the thing, that's the peace of mind that we're talking about is I have so much peace of mind now because I trust myself.
Yes, it's the
When
best.
when you can't trust yourself to make a good decision, even about what you're putting in your mouth,
Mhm.
it just filters out into everything else in your
Mhm.
life.
Mhm.
Yeah, you blur the lines on everything.
Right.
Mhm.
It's an
Yeah.
awful feeling. What about you, Joanne? What do you think about that when it, you know, having to do with other people's actions?
Well, I think it also goes back to the agreement of not taking things personally. When you can start to recognize
Yeah.
somebody being consistent in their behavior, you start at the same time, you're doing your best and you know you're consistent and controlling yourself and your choices, and that person is still acting in the same way. I think it just gives you permission, like you said, either to walk away or to accept that, but without like that resentment, and you approach situations differently, I think. And
Yeah.
I see this in my husband. I mean, we've been married forever, like for like 21 years. Not as long as LT, but 21 years is a long time. And you know, we were together for 5 years before that, and he has been consistent in some of the, like, I don't want to say flaws, but like our communication. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
I know
I'm
what you
calling
mean.
them flaws. We'll just call them communication differences. But he has been different. And along the way, I've expected him to communicate in a different way that it was never going to happen. And I would take that personally. And because I wasn't living my best life and I wasn't living up to my own standards the way I should have been, I was taking how he acted personally. And a lot of people aren't malicious in how they act. They're just not. Everybody, you can assume positive intent in most people. And when you're not right in here and in here, you always assume the worst, and you
That's
always assume that they're coming at you to be malicious, and it's not true. And so when you shift that and start to be the best version of your own self, and you recognize your own flaws, and you recognize that everybody else is just trying to live up to a standard that's false as well as you were. I mean, it's kind of like it blows your mind in that moment when you're like, wow, we're all doing this wrong. We just need to live our own best self and show up in our best way. I think the earth would fall off its axis if everybody did that on the same day. Like, we're all just living in this false dream, I guess.
Yeah, you really do you get more patient with people, and you give people
Yeah.
more grace. which is really what you want to come back to you.
Yes.
But you were so skewed. I'll speak for myself. I was so skewed in my thinking before that I was off. So I did make that assumption that they were coming at a different angle that I didn't like. And I did take things personally. But when you make that shift, you can see it for what it is. And it's a much more calm household.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, and going back to what you said, Joanne, that, when you are the engine of your life instead of the caboose, then you aren't so thrown around by what's going on.
That's right.
Yeah.
When you are not feeling in control and you are the caboose and every circumstance is just tossing you around whatever direction, it makes you feel resentful, and it makes you feel like you have to control all the circumstances.
Yeah.
Because that's what's running your show. And yet when you start being the engine of your life and you realize all of the things that you can control, then some of these things you realize don't really matter that much.
It becomes effortless. It becomes like you were living so hard before. Why is it so
We all make it so much harder.
That's right.
So, like now I'm just like, oh, okay. Whatever. Like I don't know. It's just not hard anymore. I don't know how to describe it. It's just so much easier.
And that right there, in a nutshell, y'all, is what we talk about when we say there's freedom and the monkey is off our back. We didn't even know how to put it into terms, but we lost this weight. We got right in our mind. And that's one of the benefits that we didn't even know we needed it, but gosh, we needed it.
Right.
We needed it.
It was exhausting. And I don't feel exhausted or overwhelmed anymore. I just feel like in control of myself, and you're in control of yourself. And I don't need to control all those things. And that's okay.
That's right.
Louise says 1 meal at a time is what I need to concentrate on. If I plan too far ahead, I get overwhelmed. And that goes exactly back to what Lori said, is that, when you just look at, here's the choices that I can make in this moment. And what happens is you do start to trust yourself.
Yeah.
And so you becoming the engine of your life doesn't happen overnight. It happens. It's like you're the caboose and you move up a car. So then eventually you are the engine. And so, but that starts with making these choices and setting boundaries, which we talk about.
That's right. And here's a plug for mantras. That was one of my mantras that aligned with what I was doing, because I told myself that my future success is hidden in my daily routine. Okay. So now I'm aligning with my behaviors. And so that's why I say I built a life on that. One day at a time.
Absolutely. It feels like you said, Lori, it's something you don't even, most of the people who come, to me are like, I need to lose this much weight and get off these medications, because
it's got to happen.
This is what is in my mind and what I see every day when I look at the mirror. I'm huffing and puffing when I go up, the stairs. I don't feel comfortable when I sit down in a regular size chair, like all of this stuff.
All of it.
But the truth is that is all of that stuff. That's the symptom of all the other stuff that we're talking about that's not right.
That's it.
So that's what's so different about what we do in the Plant Power Revolution is it's a combination of mindset and nutrition, so that you are not just at the end of it looking differently, but you are behaving differently. You're showing up differently in your life, and you're feeling differently. And that's what I always tell people. That's what keeps you going, not the weight loss is amazing. I mean, everybody wants to look good, but that won't be the thing that keeps you going.
No. And that's why I love this double play on words. When people see me that haven't seen me in a while, I'm like, oh my gosh, you have changed so much. And I'm like, listen, girl, you don't even know the half of how I've changed yet, because they're looking at physical, and they're right. I have changed. But what I know and what I take delight in and pride and joy is I have changed. And I've changed so much up here. I'm a different person.
Right. And both of you guys were able to continue your weight loss journeys all through COVID.
Yes.
And I know that, so Lori, are you around 85 pounds now?
About 87.
Nice.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
That's so
That doesn't
amazing.
sound right. I know it
That's
wasn't. I'm like, how did I
amazing.
get to 87? But I did. Yeah.
Isn't that like a fifth grader or something?
Yeah.
Like your average fifth grader?
I
I mean, because
have.
I think I lost a fourth grader for sure.
Yeah.
And what about you, Joanne?
Well, I measure my things in dogs and cats. So I've lost a dog and a cat.
A dog and a cat.
Yeah. I'm at 55, 56 now.
Yeah.
After this
Yeah.
week of reboot, I'm
Yeah.
down another pound. So
So for
Picture
people
that, like big bags of dog food. Joanne's lost about a big thing of dog food and some more. I've lost about 2 big things of dog food, because that's a great visual. Try to pick one up when you're in the grocery store. That stuff's heavy. And we were walking around like that.
yeah.
when I was doing one-on-one personal training and people with, they'd be like, they had reached their 20-pound mark or whatever, I'd be like, let's go to the weight room. You're going to pick up 20 pounds. So that you can feel, because it's, you're
It's a
like,
lot.
I'm like, so imagine walking around with this every single day, no matter what you do, you're carrying it with you.
Yep.
Well, that bag of dog food is that bag of dog food is a good visual, because we buy our dogs 40-pound bags of dog food. And there's a little like boutique-y place we go to buy it. So the parking lot is right there. But there were days back before I started, I couldn't carry that 40-pound bag of dog food out to my car, and I would have one of the young teenagers inside put it in my trunk for me, because I literally could not lift that 40-pound bag of food. But at the point where I had lost 40 pounds and I went to that store and I wasn't inflamed and I didn't get hurt, and I was putting that bag in my trunk by myself, and I thought, that's what I was carrying around with me 24 hours a day. And I couldn't bring it to my trunk, but yet I was carrying it on my body at all times. What was that doing to my organs and my lungs? And I mean, it's incredible.
And it affects your psyche so much as well.
Mm-hmm.
It just is I felt so, because I had so much joint inflammation and everything, in addition to the weight, I felt so old.
Yeah.
And it was ridiculous. I wasn't old. I'm not old now. So it's like, I don't want to feel like that.
No. And it changed my disposition, and it made me snappy and angry and real short. Yeah. That's what it did to me. Yeah. And I regret a lot of the things that I said and did during that time. And it was kind of like it was a cry for help, or a cry out of pain, or I had to say, it's almost like I couldn't control it, because it was so immediate. It was knee-jerk reaction on so many things. And it was a total reflection of how I felt, because I was miserable.
Why do you guys think that, since we're talking about this topic of doing your best, being overwhelmed versus being the engine versus being the caboose and all this stuff, what do you think stops women, knowing that I'm sure that there are women watching this or will be watching this on the replay who feel exactly like what we're talking about, who are feeling overwhelmed, who are feeling, depressed, who are feeling, disgusted about their weight, who are having all of these physical symptoms that, whether it's nausea or pain or inability to sleep, the crazy hormonal issues that we get, all of that stuff. What do you think stops women from getting out of that state?
I think fear of being looked at as a failure. And I'm speaking for myself, and I'm speaking of what I have, all the women that I've coached now. Yeah. It is so hard to ask for help, especially if you are trying to control things so much because you are so miserable, and you're trying to control it so much to the point where you're like, I can do this on my own. Damn it. Get out of my face. I don't need your help. It was the hardest thing for me to contact you the very first time I contacted you and say, look, I can't do this by myself. I thought I could.
You've said to yourself, you're like, I was practically at death's door. And yet,
I'm not even, like, when I look back, like at the time, I honestly said to my husband, I cannot feel worse than I feel right now. This must be what people feel like the day before they die. I was not diagnosed with fibromyalgia, but if I could describe to you the pain my whole body was in, it must be that, because I thought I had like Lyme disease or something, because every ounce of my body just hurt just sitting there. And it was so scary. And I was so fatigued that I literally could not walk across the room to put my glass in the sink. I would ask the kids to come to my chair, get my glass, get me a refill. Like, what? I was 46 years old when that was going on. And I thought, this must be what death feels like, because I can't imagine feeling worse than this. So
and yet, you didn't. You went on like that for a while.
Oh, I was
Before-
probably in that state of really, really pain and fatigue for at least a year. At least a year living like that. And just every day got worse and worse and worse. And I still would not ask for help. I just was so stubborn, or so like, I can't have somebody help me, because who would help me? You know, like I just had all these negative thoughts.
So Christine says, because what do I do if it doesn't work?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
What was my alternative? Here I was like, okay,
It's almost like you don't want to find out.
I didn't want to fail again.
Yeah.
I didn't want to fail again.
And here's what I'll say to that, because I did fail, and I'll use the word fail many times because I'd been on 26 programs, as we all know. So I put my stock in other people, and I didn't really want to take an honest look, because I didn't want to trade one set of problems for another set of problems, because I knew these problems. That was the unknown. I knew this one.
Yeah.
And so when it didn't work, I was out of there in 6 months, and I was on to the next one, because, you know, that one wasn't good anyway. It's this one that's going to work. And then I did some extreme things with surgery and all that, thinking that that was going to work too. And that did not. So what I would tell people is take an honest look at yourself and really ask yourself, are you addicted to food? Because you probably are. And when I really said, that's really what I am, and when I finally was honest and authentic about that, that's when it started changing. And I was in this group where I could talk about that. Because I know everybody thinks, oh, LT's over here is just telling everything. Listen, LT used to keep it undercover. I didn't tell Jack. I was the most secret agent you've ever seen. Nobody knew this stuff about me, because I kept it to myself. And that's why I ruminated, and that's why I stayed mad and upset, and that's why other people got my shrapnel. But when I exposed, and when I realized that I can be honest, and this group's going to accept me and love me through the process and care enough about me to want to get it done and to cheer for me when I get victories.
Yeah.
That's when I felt safe about telling it. And now I'll tell anything, because I think that that's where people need to be honest. It is food addiction. Once you break that hold that food has on you, listen, y'all, you can cook with gas then. I mean, you're going. You can do anything, because then we've got a plan where you're going to do it, and we've got people to support you, and you're going to be in a group with accountability. So that is my thing, is take an honest look at your food addiction.
Yeah, we talk a lot about food addiction because it is a thing, and no one wants to use those terms.
Nobody.
No one wants to say I'm addicted to food.
No, I didn't.
But it's a fact. It is, you know, so that's what our phase 1 is about, is breaking that addiction. It's only 5 days, but it's super, super powerful.
It is.
And it's not a fast, and there's no pills or anything like that. So, but it is a way to, like LT was saying, get that monkey of food addiction off your back. Amy says, for sure overwhelmed. It seems like I cannot find the clear path, even though it's right in front of me. Michelle says, I agree with Coach Joanne. I struggle with asking for help and admitting my failures. I always revert back to the mindset, well, I always fail. And that is that.
Yep.
So, and that is, you know, so much of what we do in the group with our mindset work is changing that. That is a script that's running in your head.
Yep.
You always feel, you know, and so when you change that script, you can start behaving differently, because your thoughts are running the show. If you have these ruminating thoughts, then whether you even realize it, you may not even realize what that script is, because it's been running for so long, but you start to tune into it, and you're like, oh my God, like this is what's making me self-sabotage right here, because I'm hating myself all the time.
All the time.
And so we work so much on loving yourself and doing this from a place of self-care instead of self-loathing, which is so key. So what advice then do you have for women who are in that state, who really just feel like, I just can't do one more thing, or this is too big? I think of the reason a lot of people do weird, and I say weird because it's not sustainable when you start something like Optavia or isogenics, or when you do keto, this stuff is not going to be long-term. So when people do that, I think they're just thinking, okay, I'm just going to grab this low-hanging fruit here because it's like, that's, this, and then they fail at it again though, right? Because it's designed to fail, right? It's designed to fail. So it's not a failure on their part, but it feels that way. And so then they feel even worse. And so over time, they've gotten themselves into this pit. So what advice do you have for women who feel like that?
Yeah, I would say if you feel like that you feel like I've tried it all, I've done it all, because I honestly felt like at that point that I had tried and done it all. But I wanted something, like you said, that was sustainable. I did not want a quick fix, and I wanted it to be with real food. And when you just look at the science, you're going to see that all of these plant-based foods that we eat are just clinically proven to help with your cholesterol, your blood pressure, my menopausal symptoms went away. A rash I'd had for over 10 years went away. My mojo came back. My disposition was different. And I'm talking about this started happening very quickly in the game. So if you'll just give yourself a little bit of time, trust the process, realize that somebody in this group has been there, done it all, and it's probably been me. So, and I'm telling you it didn't work. This is what works. This is how you can live a life with a family, go out to eat, go on vacation, do whatever you're going to do. It's real food. You're getting it in regular grocery stores. You're not having to go to these specialty high-end stores to get specialty high-end things. And then you post recipes all the time that are simple, easy, quick, 15 minutes. We have a meal delivery service. I mean, we have got you covered in so many areas. That's totally optional, but you have options. And I think that's what I mainly want you to know is there are so many options, and they're a lot easier and quicker than you think, and they're going to last for the duration of your life.
I think that's a really good point, because women will say, well, I can't do this because,
right.
And then it'll either be because they work too much, or maybe they're a stay-at-home mom and they're homeschooling. You're like, I'm home all the time. I'm always around food. I mean, there's just so many reasons that you can come up with, but there are women in the group who are doing it. Like, so we have women in the group who are working full-time doing it. We have women in the group who are travel for a living, who are doing it. We have women in the group who are homeschoolers who are doing it. So
we have women in the group who are chefs who are doing it.
Yes.
Who work in restaurants full time.
That's right. Yeah. So there are so many different options. And that is the thing you don't have with a lot of with these other things that you're trying. And so this is just healthy living.
That's all it is. And we're showing you what portions to use. We're giving you guidelines. You've got food lists. We tell you about navigating, going out to eat and holidays and birthdays and that type thing. And, there are allowances for things. This is not strict. There's no deprivation. And let's just say it's all in how you prepare and how you plan for these foods. They are delicious foods. Nobody is never going to get to not eat cake again, or ice cream, or a brownie. That's just not true. It's all in how you prepare and make them. And it's going to be just as good as what you had. And you're going to think this is even better because it's so good for me.
Right.
I'm not doing any damage.
It's not making me sick. And we don't, so just so people know, we don't, this isn't a program where we don't weigh food or anything like that. So just so, because I know people have talked about that before and asked me that question. So this is just about keeping the ratios. Like when you look at your plate, keeping your ratios a certain way to lose weight.
That's right.
And so it's a ton of food also.
Yeah, because we talked about you can be a junk food vegan, and there are people that like to just get processed food, but that's not how you're going to lose weight. So that's where you're teaching with the proper ratios and building a plate come in, because, you can be a vegan and healthy, and you can be a losing weight vegan and be healthy. Right.
So, all right, what about you, Joanne? I know that you had some advice too for women who are in the pit.
So I would say if you're in the pit and you're overwhelmed, ask yourself if that's where you want to stay. If you want to stay feeling like that the rest of your life, that's exactly what's going to happen, because that's your comfort zone and that's all you know. And it's scary to try to get out of there. And the way I think you have to look at it is, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. And think about who you used to be when you were 7 years old or 8 years old and you thought you were amazing. And then look for her. You know, I had a really tough conversation yesterday with someone who is in the pits of overwhelm, and rightly so. She's got a lot going on. And if you can just, I think the turning point in that conversation was, who are you? Who do you want to be at the end of the day inside? Who are you? And you have to separate yourself and look at that person as somebody you need to give a hand to lift them out of that pit, because you're not going to get out of that pit by yourself. You need to separate yourself and go, look, other self, you're in a pit. We're getting out of here. And I'm not giving up on you until you're out and you're who you were meant to be. And it's an empowering thing, and it's a freeing feeling when you get out of that pit. And you absolutely can get out of that pit, but you do need help. You do need help, and you do need to come at it from a place of loving yourself first. And I know that's hard when you're overwhelmed, but you know who you are. At the end of the day, when nobody else is giving you demands, you know who you want to be. And when you can see that person, that's all you need to do is see her. We'll help you go after her, but that's all you need to do is remember who she was.
That's right. And I will say this, time is marching at a very, very quick clip. We say this all the time. We are at the end of June. I mean, didn't it feel like we just had Christmas? I mean, so time's marching on whether you're going to be on board or not. But we're saying that if you get on board by this Christmas, you can be feeling 100% better. You may not have lost all the weight you want to lose, but listen, you're going to have the mindset and have that, just that get up and go about you, that you're going to say, I will do it. It's going to take maybe a little bit longer, but I can keep doing it, because you're going to have unloaded all of that. So that's what I would say. Time's marching on. Go ahead and get on march with us, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, you know, you don't have to completely believe in yourself. That's where I think the mistake comes in.
Yeah.
Is when you're just like, I don't believe in myself. I don't believe I can do this. But like Joanne said, if you can know two things, if you can know that I don't want to be where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
And if you can know that there is a better, if you can just believe that there's something better available to you. That's all you have to believe.
That's all I had going in. I was like, I don't want to do this another day. And I know life used to be better than this. And I want that back. That's all I knew going in. And at that phone call, I was like, okay, Lori, fix me. I was like, I don't know how to do it, but you do it for other people. So help me out. And it just evolved into I'm not even the same person.
No.
And that's the thing, is if you just reach out for the help. And what I want everyone listening to this is just to remember, we haven't said a word about calories. It's just not what you think it is.
No.
This journey is not about what you think it is. It's about getting happy and getting emotionally unstuck.
That's right.
Believing in yourself, becoming more confident, and that starts to show up in your body.
You get a side effect of weight loss.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, well, I thank you guys so much once again for talking this out with me. I know that, you know, we get so many great comments that women are getting so much out of this. So it is exciting to be able to share our journeys. It's not always comfortable, you know, for any of us, because we're not so much different than anyone who's watching. I mean, nobody wants to be vulnerable, right? Nobody wants to be like, yeah, I really was at a horrible point where I wasn't taking care of myself and I was hiding in the car eating donuts. I mean, nobody really wants to be coming out with that information.
But we were there.
Right.
We were there.
We were all there.
we
Yeah.
can relate to it. You're right. And that's why that's why I wanted to put that disclaimer, because I seem like such an open book. Y'all, I hit it.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
big time.
And it's embarrassing and it's
Yeah,
shameful.
sure it is.
But when you start being really honest, when you realize you can be honest with other women, which is what we do in the group, when you can just be like, okay,
Yep.
here's the bottom line, then you realize actually that we are all not so different.
Yeah.
No, we're
And
a
that you
lot
don't have
alike.
to put on airs about how well you're doing. You can just say, I'm doing like crap. And we can help you
Yes.
from
We
there.
swoop in.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And I mean, that goes back to what we said at the beginning, you know, with Molly really just being like, calling you and being like, you know what, I'm hitting rock bottom over here. What do I do? That's what this group is here for, is not only to give you the actual practical tools to adopt a diet that's going to help you lose weight and feel great, that's doable, no matter what part of your life you're in, but also just that support, because life is real. Life isn't a, you know, it's not a sitcom. Everything is not great all the time.
Yeah.
So,
And you don't have to do it on your own. Like, I think that's such a false way to live, is to think that we were meant to be solitary and get it all right.
No.
We
Right.
are
Built for
constantly
community.
learning. We're
Mhm.
constantly growing. And if we shut ourselves off and think we can do it on our own, we're not. We can't. It's just not meant to be.
We are really, you know, in what I am passionate about building, and I know you two feel the same way, is a sisterhood. Because this isn't just about, like we talked about, it's not just about the weight. It is about just unloading this thing where women have to be doing everything all the time, doing it perfectly and looking great while they do it. And it perpetuates this system of not being able to set boundaries and, you know, failing all the time, and then not feeling good about yourself. And so that's, you know, this sisterhood that we're building is really powerful. As well. It is a movement.
A revolution, as I like to call it.
It is.
A plant power revolution. That's why, you know, I used to call it by a different name, but I changed it to a revolution because of that.
Right.
So Patricia says this was so helpful. Tammy says, Joanne, the image of looking at yourself and extending a helping hand is so powerful. Tina says, thank you. This was so beneficial hearing all of this. I've had a stressful week. And Benita says, so this is actually, she's wanting to know what the program is. So the program is actually the Plant Power Revolution. It's not this group that anybody might be watching from the InnerStrength tribe. It is the Plant Power Army. And that's where you get the coaching and the mindset work. And, you know, all of the resources comes with that program. So if that's something that you have interest in, then contact me and we will talk about it. So thank you guys so much for joining us. And next week, we plan to talk about, there's a lot of women who, because insurance will pay for it, are looking at gastric bypass. And, you know, everyone needs to make their own choices in terms of what they do, but we have, you know, women in the group who either had gastric bypass and it was not successful, or you know, or meaning either they had complications or they had it and they gained the weight back, or people who were looking at gastric bypass and did this program instead and have lost the weight and have gotten healthy. So we're going to talk about that next week, and hopefully have a special guest with us that day as well. So I hope you'll join us for that. Have an amazing weekend and we'll see you next time.
Okay. Bye.